Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm George Binns, and I'm here with Gail Burke and Elliott Margolis. And the name of the show is normally What's Happening, but tonight we're talking mostly about what's not happening. It's now the middle of January when we're recording, and lo and behold, the government is shut down. The wall isn't up, down, or sideways. The Brexit is in question. There's supposed to be a vote tonight, especially it's going to go down. And no matter where you look, people are in trouble, having problems, and Congress is off vacationing.
Mostly the Democrats.
Well, they wanted to get...
they're down in Puerto
They're
Rico.
in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Menendez or whatever,
Menendez.
without his shirt on, with a younger woman.
Yeah.
That's like a horror film.
Who's paying for that one?
We are.
No, the lobbyists.
The lobbyists are?
Yeah, that's a fundamental thing. And the Speaker of the House went off to Hawaii for a vacation at $800 and some odd dollars
I have
a
a
night.
question about that. Did she have any security with her?
Oof, how'd she fly there, too? That's another question. But anyway, really the issue, I think, comes down to is a whole bunch of people ran to get elected or re-elected because they had a platform. We're going to do something. And they aren't doing anything. And the number of people that are out there right now running for president, and that election is 2 years away. What happens in the meantime? We all sit around and twiddle our thumbs and wait till the next election and see if we can get a president that somebody likes and the media will tell us what's going on?
Well, Elizabeth Warren just got reelected, and it was like 2 weeks later she announced that she's has an exploratory committee to find out whether or not she wants to run. In the meantime, she's running back and forth to Iowa. I have news for you, Senator. You're from Massachusetts. We have problems here.
You know, what's interesting about that is when Romney was running for president, the press and the Democrats were complaining that he's the governor of Massachusetts and he's out gallivanting running for president. I guarantee you, I'll put money on the table right now, guaranteeing you that the press or the Democrats will say nothing about Liz Warren not being in Congress doing her job.
Oh, yeah.
Guarantee it.
Oh, sure.
Because there are different rules for the Democrats than there are for the Republicans.
Yep. Well, I don't know what this young girl from New York is up to, other than she's a socialist who wants to give free everything to everybody. Doesn't even know what she's talking about. And I just would like to say to her, all the rich people in the country are not going to be able to pay for what you want to do. And when you say free education, like Bernie Sanders, does that mean free education to Harvard? I don't think so. It's the community colleges, but all they say is free education. So these kids think, we're going to get free education. We're not going to have to pay. What about all the kids that have been paying all these years, or their parents? What do you say to them?
Well, Margaret Thatcher said that socialism is, you might have to correct me on this, but something like socialism is the best form of government until you run out of everybody else's money.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's the problem with socialism. There isn't enough money. I suggest you look at Venezuela as a perfect example.
How about Denmark, Sweden, and Norway?
They're having second thoughts about it for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And those are the countries that Bernie Sanders wants us to look at and copy. I don't think so, Bernie.
Well, Norway is one country that started this program of basic minimum income, where they selected a group of people and they get equivalent like $1,000 a month, whatever it is in Norwegian krona. And they were working this program for a while, and then they discovered, it's not having the effect that we want, in that there's a basic problem with the way we run welfare in this country, that you get welfare up until the point that you reach a certain income. And after that, it's cut off. And this gets to be a situation where somebody is creeping up on that threshold, and if they trip over it, they have a tremendous pay cut or income cut. And so they came up with this concept of a basic income so that you can get through this threshold and hopefully get to be a productive job and become self-sufficient. And it's not working. So it's another one of these bright ideas that in reality it doesn't work.
Two things. Thing number one is liberals in general don't think about the consequences of their actions. They like certain things, and some of the stuff that they like is good, but they don't understand the consequences of their actions. But when you were talking about the income tax or whatever, with all due respect, you're probably old enough to remember Milton Friedman's negative income tax.
Yeah.
And that was the perfect solution, I think, to the problem. And to explain the negative income tax, basically, let's say you're on welfare, and let's say you're collecting $200 a month, because back then that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay? You get a job. In today's market, if you get a job and make $50 a week, they're going to take that $50 out of your welfare check.
Mm-hmm.
But under Milton Friedman's negative income tax, if you made $50, they'd take $25 out. So therefore, you've got an incentive. You've just made more money. You've got the incentive to work and keep working. And that's what the negative income tax does. But of course, our Congress wasn't then and isn't now smart enough to understand that.
Well, you get into a situation, you can go into the IRS tables, and I think 2016 is the latest one they've got up and published, and you can look down through the income brackets as to how much the government is collecting from certain brackets. And when you get to the very low income brackets, it's a negative number. So they're getting money back on their income tax instead of paying income tax in. So some of that effect is in place right now. But the other thing, the point you were making, you can go through those same data tables and you start looking at where the money is going. And it's the group of people between like $75,000 a year to $1 million a year in adjusted gross income. That's 50% of the income in this country. From $1 million on up, we're only looking like 20% of the people. So the point you were making is that the rich people are rich, but there's not enough of them to be able to finance everything.
And here's the other point. How many poor people that you know have businesses, hire people, build buildings, and create jobs? And if you take that money away from the big corporations or the rich people, and you take that money away in taxes, they don't have the money to build buildings and hire people. So you're, again, as it goes back to the consequences of your actions, the American way, the economic system that we have, rewards you for working hard. And liberals want to take that reward away.
I wish the system really worked that way, but I've been looking at some of the data coming out of the market, and how many companies are really grossly over in debt, and what did they do with the money they borrowed at low interest rates from the government to get us out of the last free-for-all? They bought their stock back. And a lot of these CEOs are being criticized because they bought their stock back at too high a price. Now they've got the stock certificates and they've got the debt. And now the interest rates are going up. They can't afford the debt anymore. And you watch these companies, GE is a prime example. There's several others out there that all of a sudden, like GE is selling everything under the rug. But the kitchen sink trying to bail out their debt situation. So theoretically, yeah, if these high rollers had the money, they're the ones that could go out and create jobs. but they won't create jobs unless there's some demand. And this is the problem that
Yeah.
people don't understand is everybody's got to get rich, relatively rich, in order to get the demand up. And unless the people at the low end, where there's more of them, aren't spending the money, look how many stores are going out of business. Sears is not a good example of that because they just blew it.
Well, stores are going out, a lot of retailers are going out of business because of the internet. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the reality of the situation. It's sort of like people are getting lazy. Instead of going to a store and seeing things, you go online. And that's
Lot
why you're
easier.
getting fat.
Well,
It's a
let me
lot
counter that
easier.
one too, because
All right?
I got
George doesn't like me today.
no, not. I don't buy into this free market. It'd be nice if it really worked, but it isn't. And there was a criticism in the Salem News about buying local, or advocating buying local, criticizing what you say, going online. And I get into hobby stuff, so I'm looking for some very specific things. I go out to the local hardware store. I'm 0 for 3. I'm looking for 3 different things. They don't have them. You go around to some of these other stores, they don't have them. Fortunately, I got a granddaughter who's got Amazon Prime, so I just go to her bedroom and say, type me up an order for this, that, and 3 other things, and it's there in 2 days. That is
But see,
a very difficult
you
thing.
actually just proved my point.
What?
Okay, because of the internet, because of places like Amazon, the smaller stores can no longer afford to have merchandise. They
don't
can't
it in-
have the inventory.
They
but
they don't
that-
have it anyway.
No, that disappeared when you had big stores like Kohl's or
That didn't hurt.
Sears.
No, that didn't hurt.
Oh, I think it did. And when you see that the sales that they can provide, that the smaller stores can't afford to, and the access to them because they're in the malls. So you go to the mall, you can go to one store, you can go to another store. It's a very convenient way to shop. And but the internet is great because you have a vast supply of everything. And I don't think it's because people are lazy. I think it's because it's easier access, particularly in bad weather, particularly for
wait.
older people.
Just wait until the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, softball teams, Little League teams, wait till they start going around looking for donations and there's no stores to give them donations.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
But times change. Things change.
understood.
By the way, the Boy Scouts are now the Boy Girl Scouts.
Okay,
And back when I was involved with the Boy Scouts, we ran the troop based on collecting newspapers. And that was the deal.
Yeah.
And we used to get $1 or 100.
No more
pounds.
newspaper, or very few newspapers today.
yeah.
Yeah.
So everything is changing, and sadly for people of our age, it's sometimes very difficult to make that leap into the 21st century, especially when it comes to iPhones, iPads, iPods. That's
I got a pocket full of things that are smarter than me.
scary, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's another thing that I think that you're mentioning, the transition. You get online with one of these things, or you buy one of these things, and you get some very simple instructions. There's the on button. You're on your own.
Yeah.
And it's taken me the longest time to learn how to tap this thing so it'll respond to me.
There are no more instruction manuals.
No,
You have to go to the computer and download them.
Yeah.
I did
But if you
that,
could
and it
run the
was like 100 pages,
Yeah,
most of which I didn't need.
Well, most of which is in different languages
That's
anyhow.
true,
So you
that's
only have to you got to find English and copy that one page.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, it's an interesting world.
Well, it's a rather scary world, I would say, particularly when we were talking before about the press and what you read. Is this real? Is that real? Where's it coming from? How do you know? I mean, you read stuff all the time from the liberal media, And it's hard to find stuff unless you have specific sites that you go to on a regular basis. People will say to me, well, where do you get your information? And I'll rattle off 10 or 12 places that I go to. And that's fine. But a lot of people don't want to be bothered doing that.
Well, as I was telling you before we started the show, I was talking to a friend of mine today, and he's opposed to the quote-unquote cement wall. And he can't understand why Trump won't negotiate. And I said to him, where have you been? He says, Trump has already said, eliminate the cement wall, put up steel girders with about 6 inches between them so you can see through them,
Yeah.
and do that instead, and then have our steel made in the U.S., which will be even better. He had no idea. Why didn't he have any idea? Because he doesn't listen to all the, I mean, it's ABC or
Yeah,
CBS,
the mainstream
and they
media.
don't tell you the compromise that Trump is doing. They only tell you that he's not compromising. He didn't even know that Nancy Pelosi said we will not negotiate. He didn't know that.
Under any circumstances.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
what about a few years ago? Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer all agreed that we need to build a wall. Now, all of a sudden, and they jump all over the president for this one, when he said it's because Trump is now the president that they won't do it. That's absolutely true.
Well, Chancey is certainly a good example of why you need term limits.
Absolutely.
McConnell is a good example of why you need term limits. Because these people are elected to work for us, but instead they work for their party.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't care about us. How many years? I think the first time that they started talking about a wall was 2007. And so we're in
You can go back to
2019 now.
1993 and Bill Clinton and his State of the
That's
Union.
That's true. He
That's
did
true.
talk about it.
All Congress does is talk. They do nothing, and that's both parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not condemning any particular party because it's all of them. That's why they're all poster boys and girls for term limits. Get elected to do something for the country, do it, or get out.
Yeah. Well, they don't want to do anything for the country.
They're more concerned about getting reelected as opposed to
right.
doing the job. See, if you do something, somebody's going to say that's not the right thing. I don't care whether everybody, the bottom line is in most elections, 52% of the people like you, but that means 48% of the people don't.
Don't.
Yeah.
So get over it and do your job.
Well, it's kind of scary to me when I see these Democrats who have been elected or reelected, and what are they talking about? They're not talking about doing anything that's going to benefit us. They're talking about getting rid of the Electoral College.
Which can never happen.
It better not
It
happen.
can't. Think about this. To pass a constitutional amendment, you need 2/3 of the states to do that, okay? Now, that means you need places like Utah, Iowa, Wyoming, Montana, and all those states that need the Electoral
Yeah,
College
because
to
there's-
eliminate
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It can't happen. It's a virtual
not.
impossibility.
Well, they're already talking about it now. They just
Again,
were
talk.
elected.
It's
Well,
talk.
again, the real issues in this country, health care. You do any kind of polling at all, and most people start off with health care is their biggest problem. Jobs is a big problem because we've got an awful lot of people looking for work or not looking for work because they gave up, and yet there are jobs available, except it's hard to find people who are qualified. So we needed to get into
That's
an
right,
issue
yeah.
about what are we going to do when this automation keeps going on and on and on.
But we're not
Per-
having enough children to replace ourselves.
But perhaps the colleges ought to teach real courses instead of this ridiculous stuff that they're teaching
And
now.
who's going to teach it? That's the problem. The liberal professors aren't interested. They are mostly teaching the socialist point of view.
They're intimidated
on
by
everything.
the groups that are pushing politically correct to an unreasonable limit. And you start to read about the number of protests on campus where the advertising for the protest is bring a noisemaker. You know,
It's
you go
just
to college supposedly
chaos.
to get a broad view of the world. And if every time somebody even hints about talking about something that is different than what's been echoing around your chamber, oh no, we got to protest that. We have to disinvite them.
Or, I'm offended. I need a safe space.
They
Okay.
had the safe space at Brown University, and they served cookies and milk. Literally, oh, it's
In
ridiculous.
some places, they give them teddy bears to hug.
Yeah.
I mean, these are supposed to be adults now, 18 and up, and they need a safe space because they're offended by a word or a sentence that somebody said. Where did you learn tolerance? Isn't that the key word of the Democrat Party? Tolerance? It's tolerance for anybody except if you disagree with them.
Right.
And then there's no tolerance.
But let's move to a totally different subject for a
Okay.
minute, and instead of be a little more well-rounded. Let's talk about all the police officers that are being killed
Oh.
and attacked. The lack of respect that people now have for the legal profession. I mean, it's really frightening that you go and you make a stop for somebody speeding and get shot.
Yeah, that's scary.
You know, and
Yes. And
I know that the
particularly-
post, just so everybody knows, the post office now has a stamp for the first responders.
Oh, is that right?
I bought some today, and I
Oh,
think
that's
people should
great.
buy some
Yeah,
of those first responder
absolutely.
stamps just to support first responders. But, you know, all these people that are complaining about the police, who are they going to call when someone's robbing their
That's
house?
right.
Because why, particularly liberals who don't lock their doors and don't have any walls, people could just walk in
And
there.
then they don't like guns.
I have a problem with these liberals that claim that we got to open our borders. And you ask them, do you lock your doors at
Yeah.
night? Oh, yeah. Oh,
How come?
many homeless people have you invited into your house? None.
None.
But we ought to open the borders.
Well, what about the Hollywood elites and all the wealthy people who all live behind gates, walls? They have
mean Harry
armed
Reid?
guards. Yeah, he
But
lives in a
keep
gated
in mind,
community.
they're really politicians because they lie too. How many of those have actually moved to Canada? And notice, they're also racist because none of them will move to Mexico.
No, that's true. They don't want to go down there with the rabble. That's
Yeah.
that's how they think of people.
You know, and we don't have a problem at the border, even though that there's another whole group of people starting to
That's an
come to this country.
exaggeration.
Yeah.
Even though we have videos, we have people that have gone down to the border, we have all kinds of evidence that these people are causing problems. Look at the diseases they're bringing in. Diseases that were eradicated from our country years ago. And the diphtheria, tuberculosis, measles, it's all coming back. Where is that coming from? My goodness, could it be from those illegals crossing over?
And what happens to all the billions of dollars that we give these countries
Yeah.
in foreign aid to help solve their problems? And why is it
Well, it's
that the
paying-
presidents of these countries are billionaires with our money instead of doing something for their country and for their people?
Yeah.
Well, you know where the money is. It's in a bank in Switzerland, right?
That's right.
You know, one thing did want to mention is that we're talking about this politically correct, and you mentioned that people get offended. You know, whatever happened to sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
Oh, that's gone by the boards.
And really what it's come down to is everybody decides for themselves, I think this is hurtful. And there's a new word out there called woke scolding.
yeah, I heard about
WOKESCOLDING. And people are in this mood of, oh, and it's happened to me 3 times recently, which is why I'm sensitive about it all of a sudden. I mentioned Nancy Pelosi, and they look at you, and then I mentioned Pocahontas. And you can't do that.
But she was an Indian, a real person, not
well,
the fake that we
Pocahontas
have
isn't
running
her
around
real
here.
name. That's the other thing.
Oh.
Pocahontas is her nickname. It means playful.
Oh, is that?
And the meme that I really like is shows a picture of a Jeep, and there's a caption underneath that I named my Jeep Elizabeth Warren because it's white and it claims it's a Cherokee. This will probably get me all sorts of. But at the same time, it's supposed to be a joke. And
No
she-
sense of humor.
But you know what's not a joke? What's not a joke is liberals calling Trump a Nazi.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
That's not a joke.
Calling him a lot worse than that.
I'm not sure you can get much worse than being a Nazi.
And because the people that are doing it don't even know what a Nazi
Well, they
is.
had
No,
this-
they have no
No
idea.
clue.
They
No
had this
idea.
assignment in one of the local schools to, is Trump a fascist or not?
Oh, yeah.
And, you know,
From the teacher,
from the
asking
teacher.
the children.
And people do not understand what a Nazi is. Nazi literally means the National Workers' Socialist Party.
Well, for
And
a teacher,
fascists are totally different than Nazis, even though Mussolini and Hitler sort of got
Similar.
together.
but why would a teacher, now these were what, 5th graders, I think?
Yeah.
But why would a teacher, because these kids have had a couple of years of Trump bashing everywhere they look, why would a teacher say something like that? Where's the respect for the president? It's
Oh, there's no
gone.
respect
None at
anymore.
all. And yet when Obama was president, oh my God, they were making up songs to sing
I was
to
called a
him.
racist because I disagreed with policies of his.
Oh, I was
Not
too.
because just
Yeah.
because I disagreed
Yeah.
with policies, I'm a racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my answer to one person that said that about me when I mentioned Obama, the black president, he wasn't black. He was black and white.
I don't care what you are.
Who
You can even
cares?
be a woman for all I care.
Whoa, now that's going to get you in trouble.
But the bottom line is not who you are or what you are, it's what you believe in. And, you know,
Well, you see, when you bring up being a woman, I'm telling you, I am fed up to hear with these women who think they have been discriminated against, they haven't been fairly treated. Wait a minute. If you're a woman today, in my day, that may have been true to some, but, you know, I mean, it never really affected me one way or the other. But now, you men, you old white men are in big trouble.
but
And that isn't funny because, you know, you can be called whatever. They have all different names for you. But the women have become so militant.
and did
it's
you know
frightening.
that the Women's March that's coming up, they've disinvited all the Jewish women?
No,
Well, it got
Yeah.
canceled.
that
It got
was
canceled
canceled.
because
They didn't have enough people.
No, but that was
no, they
last
didn't have
week.
enough of the right kind of people.
Oh.
Right.
Okay. Oh,
But they've disinvited Jewish women.
Wow.
Okay?
So who
Anyway.
who is,
That's part of Louis
I think we've run out of
Farrakhan.
time.
oh, okay. Yeah, I think we are.
We're on borrowed time.
We want to thank you all for watching us tonight. We're going to do more of these in 2019, as we have so much fun with it. We hope you like it. And we will see you next time on What's Happening.